Welcome back to Feeling Seen, the podcast about the movies and the characters that make us feel seen. Today I'm joined by writer-director Jade Halley Bartlett, whose feature debut, Miller's Girl, is in theaters right now. It's a gothic obsession thriller with a sense of humor starring Jenna Ortega and Martin Freeman. Jade herself could also be described as a thrilling person with a gothic sense of humor. Her love of things both macabre and playful shows up in the character that made her feel seen. Elizabeth Taylor as Martha in Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. Jade Halley Bartlett, what else do the people need to know about you before we get started today?
Well, I'm from Tennessee, so my accent's going to come in and out.
Let's hope so. What I wanted to know is, in the terms of feeling seen, influential movies in your life and kind of themes of this movie, did you grow up watching the, erotic Lolita movies of the 1990s?
Definitely. Oh,
okay,
my God.
Yeah, we're talking The Crush, we're talking Poison Ivy, those kinds of films. Anything that they put Alicia Silverstone in and made it her fault that every adult man wanted to have sex with her.
Correct. All of those, anything with Liv Tyler. God, I'm trying to think of Lolita was really seminal for me because it's shot so beautifully. It is arresting. And any of the erotic thrillers, all of the Adrienne Lyne stuff, 9.5 Weeks, Fatal Attraction, what's the Sharon Stone one? Basic Instinct.
Instinct.
This
you want to go another Sharon Stone, Sliver.
Oh my God, Slither is so good. Wait, is she also in that science fiction one? That's so... Is it Sphere?
Oh, Sphere. Honestly,
do you remember that?
One of my low-key favorite sci-fi movies.
Yeah.
I actually love Sphere. I think it's underrated and underseen.
Totally underrated, totally underseen, so hot. Oh my God, Species?
When you were saying the sci-fi one, in my mind I was thinking Species because I love... The Nastasia Henstridge era was... Nastasia Kinski and Natasha Henstridge era was such a divine slice of our lives.
Oh, yeah. Just... so hot. Just so hot. You wanted to be her. You wanted to be with her. These, it was formative years for me with those lovely ladies.
In an interview I was reading, you talk about the sort of setting and the coming to life of Miller's Girl, the look and the experience of it. You were it's not, it's too beautiful. No one talks like this. You're everything is 3 feet off the ground. And that is such a part of that cinema of the 1990s, that erotic cinema, where it's your life doesn't actually move like this. And academia and books and literature, the careers that women had in erotic thrillers in the 90s, they were art dealers and they were publishers, period. And I remember the first time I watched Sliver, she was looking at this, she's obviously looking at the apartment that the entire movie is going to be set around. And when the real estate agent is so what do you do? In the space between Sharon answering the question being asked, I just shouted, publishing! She's a publishing! And then she was I'm a book publisher. I was of course you are!
Yeah, and she was probably, 32? She's playing a 32-year-old woman. Okay. All of those movies in the 90s. What's the one with Kate Hudson where she's she's got a high-end magazine job. She's 23 years old. I'm
oh, yeah, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days.
That's it.
The Carrie Bradshaw school of must be getting paid $15 a word to live the life that you do.
Correct. Would that it were so simple for writers.
Another interview I read to you, in the preface, it started saying, she's been making money in Hollywood writing movies for 8 years, and I wanted to congratulate you on making money in Hollywood writing.
Thank you. Yes, I've been doing a lot of writing. Nothing has been made except this, which was also my first screenplay, which is wild and kind of sweet.
So now we can so we will get into Miller's Girl. Obviously, that's going to be woven throughout this conversation. But before I prolong us anymore, by God, I could just talk about a whole hours of erotic 90s thrillers with you. You went you called the shot and you swung and you hit a grand slam over the fence when you picked your character. So please tell us what character you brought to the conversation today.
I brought Martha from Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa. How old were you when you first took this in to make this decision?
The first time I saw the movie?
Yeah.
Oh, I was probably in maybe 10th grade, 9th or 10th grade.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the whole piece, I think, is extraordinary for many reasons that I'm sure we will discuss. But I had never really seen a woman in film be, and I saw the film before I saw the play, but I had never seen like somebody's wife be a full person and not just an accessory. And like to be able to go toe to toe intellectually with her husband and have all of this, like, I'm sure when that movie or when the play came out, people had to have been fucking horrified because it's such an examination of reality.
George hates Daddy, not for anything Daddy's done to him, but for his own
inadequacies?
That's right. You hit it right on the snub. Wanna know why the SOB hates my father? When George first came to the history department about 500 years ago, Daddy approved of him. And you wanna know what I did, dumb clap that I am? I fell for him.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, she did. You should have seen it. She'd sit outside my room at night on the lawn and howl and claw at the turf. I couldn't work, and so I married her.
I actually fell for him. There.
Martha's a romantic at heart.
That I am.
I mean, they must have thought she was a demon. Like, oh, she's obviously possessed, and like there's this is obviously we're talking about Liz Taylor playing Martha, the wife, to boil it down, character in Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, which is a movie about a married couple bound to and hating and resenting each other, who've been together for years, and at the end of a night of a party, they get home and the husband is informed by Martha, we're having people over, it's 2 a.m. and the young new couple in the department at the college, where her father is the president, everybody's already drunk basically when everyone gets together, and then this young couple proceeds to spend the night unbeknownst to them, walking into the detonating point of a marriage that has had like a fuse burning on it for decades.
It's so exquisite. Also, that was the best elevator pitch of that story I've ever heard. That was so good. That was so good. Because the structure of the story is immaculate. Like, what a wonderful, delicious character piece. It is obviously like it's a huge influence on me as a writer, as a filmmaker.
Well, and I saw it referenced in an interview I was reading leading up to this of talking about how like Martin Freeman's character in your movie and his wife have like a dynamic that evokes Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. That's a very intentional part of their character makeup.
Absolutely, it is, and also in the way I shot it, like having. Mike Nichols is a fucking genius, but like moving,
this was his first movie?
Was it? Oh my good God.
Could you imagine coming out of the gate with Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf and then becoming Mike Nichols?
No, I mean, I would love to. I would love to.
Imagine that.
It would be my greatest pleasure.
You're like, I spend a lot of time imagining that, actually. Thanks.
I do actually, but I didn't know it was his first one. That's so special. That's unfucking believable. The light in that movie. Oh, fun fact about that movie: his cinematographer was colorblind.
Really?
Yeah, so like all of the shadows and the way everything moves.
I was going to say, so light and shadow for him are what he's working with.
Yeah, isn't that insane? It's so, and also the way he like lets the actors like sit. He films it like a play. He did the same thing because he did Closer too, right?
Yes.
Also another huge influence.
To watch this movie is to witness Liz Taylor. And everybody's doing an incredible job. I'm forgetting the name of the actress who plays the young wife, Honey, but my God, the performance she's giving as a drunk, addled woman is truly spectacular.
Oh my God. Well, and drunk is so hard to do. It's so hard to do well.
Well, aren't you going to apologize?
It wasn't my fault. The road should have been straight.
Not that, for making her throw up.
I did not make her throw up.
You most certainly did.
I did not?
Well, who do you think did? Sexy back there? You think he made his own wife sick?
Well, you make me sick.
That's different.
No, now, please. I throw up. I mean, I get sick occasionally all by myself without any reason.
Is that a fact?
You're delicate for me.
I've always done it.
Like Big Ben, huh?
Just watch it.
The Liz Taylor of this movie, and to watch a movie, like you said, that rips open the chest of sort of the reality of like a patriarchal oppression in a marriage and discontent and the violence that women can enact in such the acutely female feminine way that they're capable of, which is so remarkable. And like, is it problematic? Yes, but only because I think it's been under the auspices of the male gaze. On its own, kind of spectacular and amazing, and I think it deserves the credit. The credit it is due. But like, there was, I'm assuming if you're watching Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf and you're talking about in interviews, like, Jenna's character in your movie is someone who is, as you said, like steeped in 18th and 19th century literature and 20th century cinema and all the problematicness that entails. And I'm assuming you too are a student of these kinds of films like Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. And there's such a incredible piece of like the nakedness of a woman's place in the women's pictures of mid-century Hollywood cinema.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. Well, it's I mean, Cairo. I am technically every character in this movie, but I'm an only child of lawyer parents who spent a lot of time not neglected by my parents. I actually loved being alone because I was so creative, but I was so romantic, like before the real world crushed me. The idea is, okay, for example, my favorite book of all time is Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. I've probably read that book.
Scans.
I've probably read it does. I feel like that goes hand in hand. I've probably read that book over 10 times, and I reread it in the past. I think I reread it right before the Netflix movie came out. I just wanted to give it to myself again.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, fuck, this is so problematic. This is so, like, he's such an asshole. You never know her name. Danvers is an unbelievable character. Like, Stan Danvers for all time. Yeah. But, like,
the gays are out here for Mrs. Danvers forever.
Yes. Oh, my God. I think for what it was in of its time, like, really exquisitely represented. Like, she is... I would love to play Danvers. I would love to I can't wait to write my homage to Danvers. But I think I really loved Maxim so much. And I really like a lot of the literature like that, like Jane Eyre, Rochester and Jane Eyre. I'm like, okay, well, I see that I'm reaching for a man who resists. I was like, yes, I want this person that resists me because there's this idea that once they give in to me, they're going to be great. No, how foolish! What idiocy! But that's the great lie that we're sold in. I think all of that literature and all of those movies, and you're correct. It's all entirely under the male gaze, and I think with Miller's Girl, it's a trope, of course. Like this trope has been told again and again and again, but it's not often told by women, and so I wanted to get inside of there and show what it feels like from the inside, because we do feel those things. And I think women culturally are, they say that we mature faster than boys. That's not real. We are expected to mature faster than boys. We are expected
to, yeah.
So things are thrust upon us culturally that we have to mature faster. And so I think a lot of young women look around at the boys around them who still get to be fucking kids, but they have to feel like an adult. So of course they look toward a Maxim or a Rochester or a Jonathan Miller, because that feels... You think that you have emotionally aligned with this person. That is not the case, because that person is also crushed by things that make them incapable of seeing what they are, or I don't know, coming together emotionally. But I grew up with that kind of literature, and so Cairo moves through the world with that kind of literature, and she's just ill-equipped to handle what it really is.
Yeah.
Why am I here? It's not for the poetry, I'll tell you that. It's for the thrill of something that I've managed to go my whole life without knowing. An ache of anticipation that you'll be here. And it will mean something that you are.
I remember when Me Too happened, and Tarana Burke is such a fucking genius. Praise be to everything for Tarana Burke. But the resurgence also of the feminist movement and things. I remember learning. Somebody said the thing about we say I'm sorry instead of excuse me, and I was like, oh no, I'm apologizing for taking up space. I'm apologizing for reaching around you at the grocery store. what the fuck am I apologizing for? But all of these things that we, like the younger generation, like they've grown up with Me Too. So they have a totally different view. Like we're still unlearning a lot of shit. A lot of shit.
Well, Matt, so watching I'm 38. Like, I was in my teens in the 2000s. I have an entire podcast dedicated to the sociology of the 2000s because I'm so obsessed with it. And so, what is a 10th grader? Like, this is 2000s prime time, perhaps. As a 10th grader experiencing Liz Taylor in this role, did that feel like? Was it like a bus hitting you? Like, and as much as this world feels like it can be, like, how was fitting your experience of watching that part into the life that you were living?
Well, I was an actor, and I did like professional children's theater, and then I did a lot of community theater. I was growing up in Memphis in high school, and Memphis, I mean, throw a rock and hit the most talented person you've ever met in your life. The theater in Memphis is like I don't know if it's in the water, which is also excellent. I don't know what it is. Memphis is incredible. But we had a really competitive theater program, even though I was in this boony bumfuck high school way, way, way out in the middle of nowhere. And the community theater programs were really intense and great. And so I was an actor, and I think I want to say I watched it in my memory, I watched it in a film class, but I might be conflating that because I can't imagine that we would be allowed to watch that at school. But either way, when I saw it, I was so excited to see a character that was so, like a woman that was so abrasive, a woman that was so like her sexual energy, like gobsmacked me. Like everything about her she was allowed to be grotesque. Yeah. And I think that's what really stunned me. Like I was like, oh, because that's the kind of.
She's drunk and she's shit-faced the whole movie. This is not an elegant Liz Taylor.
Fix the kids a drink, George. What would you like to drink, kid?
Honey. What would you like?
Oh, I don't know, dear. A little brandy, maybe. Never mix, never worry.
Brandy? Just brandy? Simple. What about you,
Bourbon on the rocks, if you don't mind.
Mind? I don't mind. Don't think I mind. Martha, rubbing alcohol for you?
Sure. Never mix, never worry.
And she's like, I think she was only like 34 when she filmed it. She's playing a character.
And because
in the
this is a movie in the 60s, we're talking about it. We're watching a movie where everybody's washed and their life is behind them, and they're in their 40s. Like,
correct.
Now these movie characters are in like their early 70s, and because it's the 60s, it's like, well, I'm in my 40s, you know. I was like, oh, you don't say. Shit.
Oh, you don't. Wow. Well, what hope have we? Well, I mean, honey, we're millennials. I don't know what hope we have.
I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, she's the scene when she's eating the fucking chicken wing.
Oh my! And it's the beginning. That's the beginning of the movie. We start out with like a Daisies moment of her just stuffing her face with chicken coming apart at the sinews.
Martha, I can't remember all the pictures that came out of Warner Brothers.
Nobody's asking you to remember every goddamn Warner Brothers epic. Just one single little epic. That's all. Betty Davis gets peritonitis at the end. And she wears this big black frock wig all throughout the picture, and she's married to Joseph Cotton or something.
Somebody.
And she wants to go to Chicago all the time because she's not that actor with the scar. But she gets sick. And she sits down in front of her dressing table.
What actor? What scar?
I can't remember his name, for God's sake. What's the name of the picture? I want to know what the name of the picture is. She gets peritonitis. She decides to go to Chicago anyway. And
Chicago. It's called Chicago.
Huh? What? What is?
I mean, the picture. It's called Chicago.
Oh, good grief. Don't you know anything?
It was just so exquisite. It was so refreshing. This is a weird comparison, but it's kind of like it didn't like move me in the same way, but like when I saw the Wonder Woman for the first time and I saw those women on horseback. I've seen soldiers on horseback in countless movies.
Countless.
So many times. And it was like a thing I didn't realize I'd never seen before. And I sobbed my face off. I was like inconsolable in the theater. And a lot of people around me were too. Like, I think, and that a lot of that has been happening with Me Too and sort of the resurgence of the movement. Like, we're getting exposed to things that we didn't even know we missed. And so I think that's really exciting. I think that's exciting for art. But with Martha, when I was a little 10th grader, I was like this chubby little 10th grader watching this movie. And, you know, like I'm also like a musical theater baby. So like, you know, like the roles, there were not a lot of roles. Like I was never going to be the ingenue.
Right.
And so I was like, well, what the fuck can I play? Because I don't always want to play a granny or the mom, who are lovely, but like, okay. But then there was Martha, and I was like, what a rich character for literally anybody to play. Her dialogue, her physicality, getting to play drunk the whole time. She's so, the fear and sadness and longing in her, the way it kind of like, my Mary Margaret Kunze, my producing partner / best friend, says this thing. She says that all repression always leads to perversion. And so when you're repressing, so like when you're repressing things in
stitch,
isn't that so good? When you're repressing things inside of you, they come out in deformed ways. So like Martha, like lashing out, like all her drunkenness, her fear is all because she's repressed. Yeah. And it's so gorgeous. I was just like, I think the first time I watched, because it's like is it almost 3 hours? It's a really long movie.
It's 2 hours and 10 minutes. It is 2 hours and 10 minutes.
What?
And let me tell you, when I was watching it on Tubi last night to prepare for this, the ad breaks in this movie are so vulgar. It is like, I was telling my producer before he came on, there is an ad break at the moment when she receives the gutting, when like George makes the choice, like our son drops the hammer on her, as she's like, no. Cut to break about mental health medication. It would in the middle of the guttural, and then it just drops you back in to just wailing on her knees. I was like, this is modern media, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh my God. Also, I feel like some person who was ever controlling where those ads go did that on purpose. They had to.
I think this has to be the pastime of people who have this job, because Tubi has such an incredible catalog. I watch Meatball Machine on Tubi, the category 3 Japanese splatter movie, and
no idea what that is.
Where they put the ads in Meatball Machine and people turning into human machines that are just brutalizing each other. Where is a good place in that movie to put them? But at the same time, it's no, you guys did this on purpose. You guys did this on purpose.
Are they made of meatballs?
No, I don't know why. I'm wondering if it's maybe a translation thing, or if it's an aspect of you just become such human meat as you transform into these machine people that maybe
nothing Italian. Nothing.
No, there's no meatballs
sauce
involved.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's
no
too
meatballs.
Bad.
No meatballs were harmed in the making of Meatball Machine.
That's too bad. I love a meatball. I do.
Well, okay, so whenever I have a 2000s baby on, it is such a treat for me because I'm like, our youth! And so, I feel like such a hallmark of that era is the glossy sanitization of what we see on screen. It is the minting of the CW man, just hairless and shorn and covered in muscle. And, all girls have, they're wearing a jean with a 2-inch zipper, and they've got to have the abs to support it. And which only Britney did. And so this as a contrast in its grit and grotesquerie. I want to hear about the experience of being used to a kind of media that you're inculcated in at that time, and watching this Mike Nichols movie from the 1960s and feeling how that hits differently.
Inculcated. What an unbelievable word. Well done. Well played. Well played. That's hot. Yeah. Oh my God. Well, it's so cinema and how Hollywood has gone through weird phases of anesthetizing and whitewashing and unsexing and then super sexing is so weird. And the aughts were, it was a time. It was a time. And I think
what a drain.
being
what a beautiful, sexy drain of culture.
Oh my God. Well, and never forget, and I don't know if this might have been later in the mids, but when Jessica Simpson, there was all this shit about Jessica Simpson being fat, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
What? Millennial women and men, we're all pretty fucked up by what the beauty standards were and how they were delivered to us.
We are pilled by the beauty industrial complex so hardcore.
Oh my God. Well, and I was not a slender girl in high school, and I remember seeing Martha, and she was unlike, beautiful, what is her name? What is that beautiful actress's name who's in She's All That?
Oh, Rachel Lee Cook?
Rachel Lee Cook, who, like, is
the
beautiful
famous
with the
Lady
glasses.
Boggs transformation of glasses removal?
The Lady Boggs. Like, are you, like, that was the kind of, you know, that was the kind of beauty that we were exposed to. Like, we were told that and oh my God, that other sweet actress who, her character used to be overweight, and then she was like super bulimic, and now she's like really hot, and they're all like, "You're so much better now." Like,
so much better now.
Oh, like, what a fucking nightmare. And so seeing Martha, who is, I think Liz gained like 30 pounds for that role, and Liz, you're talking about even at the time, the most beautiful woman in Hollywood.
And she is an hourglass dream in this movie. At one point, she's in her, like, low cut, like, her V-neck top, like, out dancing, literally just, like, shimmying in front of the man she is going to take to her bed tonight, who is 28 years old. And it's just, like, I mean, that is a sleigh. She is a sleigh in that look.
She still is. And I think I was so, like, you know, because I'm a 10th grade girl, like, I'm, you know, burgeoning sexuality as well. Yeah. And I was like, I want to be with you. I want to be you.
Yeah.
I want to, and like, and it's so weird because obviously she's a devastated character, but I found her so sexually impressive.
Yeah.
Because she was a real, I don't want to say like she was a real woman. She was a real woman. She is a real woman, but she was also there was something so masculine about her sexuality.
Yeah.
That I was like, let's go. Like she was so, and I say masculine in the sense that I think she was so fearless with it.
Yeah.
Like there was no shame around it, which I thought was astounding, you know? And like women, especially in the aughts, like God, like, I mean, we're still being told, like, what, we're 18, we're old enough to buy a gun, but we're not old enough to know who we want to have sex with. Like,
yeah. And Billie Eilish has been like a part of her journey in the last like 2 years of her career has really been like, yes, this is my body. Yes, this is who I am. And I have had to censor it in my teenage years because I have understood that the media cannot handle the reality of what I look like. So I have to cover myself for my own protection.
That's some Joan of Arc shit. That's why Joan of Arc, like, to keep her virtue for her faith, she wore men's clothes.
Yeah.
Like, come on, like, get it together. I have hope. I think I don't know what we call the generation after Gen Z.
They're Gen Alpha.
Gen Alpha. Okay.
I know somebody with a 13-year-old stepdaughter. They are Gen Alpha.
Is the 13-year-old Gen Alpha?
Yes, that is the come up is Gen
shit.
Alpha.
Wow, they're here.
Yeah,
okay.
They're here.
Oh yeah.
And they're online.
Yeah.
They're out here on TikTok. I don't know where they are, but they're out here on TikTok.
Sometimes I forget that we're pushing 40. You know what I mean? It was also such a weird, like, a weirdly unsafe time for so many people.
Yeah.
Did you grow up in a rural place?
I grew up in a very country town. I grew up in the Willamette Valley of Oregon, big farm town, big ag town.
Yeah, okay. So, like, I grew up in Tennessee. I imagine there were similar fucking situations in the high schools we were at. Like,
like my sister works in grass seed and her husband works in vegetable seeds.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Though. That's cool for them.
Goddamn right.
At my high school, and this was, I mean, I graduated high school in 2004. Like, there was a company, I'm sure they're still around, called Dixie Outfitters, and it was like a bale of hay and like some puppies and a Confederate flag draped across the bale of hay.
Yeah, of course.
And it was like I didn't think fucking twice about it because I grew up with it. And then when I was 18, I moved to New York City and was telling my friends that, and they were like, what? Say what? And I as technically an adult, there was just so much that I was unlearning about the gay rights movement has lasted longer than the fucking Confederacy did, thank God.
Yeah.
It's been such a strange thing learning about like culture and learning about sexuality when you are a millennial. Like I think boomers and like Gen X are even in a better place than we are because it was the aughts were so fucking toxic for women, for sexuality, for youth. Like, it was just like, we are so...
Well, there was more media, because like there's always more media than ever. That's just as time goes. So like there was more media than ever, and there was more to be exposed to. So where that beauty industrial complex had been around for ages, it was inescapable in a way that heretofore had never existed. But there was no personal filtering that could be done like you have the option to do now with your own personal media consumption channels. So it was the monoculture. And the monoculture was fucked.
Yes, and it hated women. It still hates women.
Yeah.
It still hates women.
What?
Let's be honest. Like, it is... Yeah. It's... Yeah, and I think, back to Martha, like, seeing... And George, all of those characters. Like, it's Sandy Dennis is her name.
Sandy Dennis, yes, playing the tiny drunk young wife in Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf.
So good. Like, it was just... they felt like such human characters in a really heightened world. And the world we were in the aughts was heightened in a terrifying and also sometimes very beautiful way. Like the aesthetic of Spice World, the movie, or Josie and the Pussycats. Like, let's go. So gorgeous.
Absolutely.
And like our plastic chairs, it was like weird kind of space. The Michael Jackson Scream video to me is like,
oh my God. Everything was extra. The flash and the color and the Louis Vuitton, the mirrored Louis Vuitton bag, like a perfect demonstration to me of like the extra and over the topness of the aesthetic of the era. The slatted sunglasses, the Paris Hilton mini dresses, like it was hats on hats on hats.
It was. It sure was. And God, those low-rise jeans. Were you a low-rise jeans gal?
The low-rise jean with the tank top down to your knee. Like... And an empire waist.
Sometimes, oh my God, the empire waist. I looked like a corporate power lesbian. I was really into the L word.
Oh, bitch.
I would wear, for real. Actually, this is probably, I think it's back in vogue now. High-waisted, pinstriped, wide leg pants, kitten-heeled, pointy-toed shoes, a vest, like a little corset vest. And a top. And I'm in high school walking around like I'm the fucking CEO of whatever in the fuck. Oh, God. And my accent.
Incredible.
When I hear videos of myself from that time, my accent is so... Like, I had a teacher named Mrs. White, and I would say Miss White.
Miss White.
Miss White.
That is Cody Smith McPhee in the Elvis movie saying, he's white.
He's white. Oh my God.
This is one of the best visuals I've conjured in such a long time.
It was really something, I must say.
It's time for a quick break, but I'll be back shortly with more from Jade Halley Bartlett. And then I'll have one quick thing about the best picture contender that I think is the one that should walk home with all of it. So stick around for that at the end.
Sound Heap with John Luke Roberts is a real podcast made up of fake podcasts. Like, if you had a cupboard in your lower back, what would you keep in it?
So I'm going to say mugs.
A little yogurt and a spoon.
A small handkerchief that was given to me by my grandmother on her deathbed.
Maybe some spare honey.
I'd keep batteries in it. I'd pretend to be a toy.
If I had a cupboard in my lower back, I'd probably fill it with spines.
If you had a cupboard in your lower back, what would you keep in it? Doesn't exist. We made it up for Sound Heap with John Luke Roberts, an award-winning comedy podcast from Maximum Fun, made up of hundreds of stupid podcasts. Listen and subscribe to Sound Heap with John Luke Roberts now.
Oh, darling, why won't you accept my love?
My dear, even though you are a duke, I could never love you. You borrowed a book from me and never returned it.
Save yourself from this terrible fate by listening to Reading Glasses.
We'll help you get those borrowed books back and solve all your other reader problems.
Reading Glasses, every Thursday on Maximum Fun.
The lifespan of Miller's Girl has been about like a decade, I believe. And it began as a stage play and became a movie. Mm-hmm. And in the middle, there is this reckoning around equality, gender, things like that. So what I want to know is that, like, as somebody who is impacted by Elizabeth Taylor, and then a product of the 2000s where we're getting movies like House of Wax, and then you go on to write your own things, and then you're writing a movie that's also a product of probably your influence of like those Lolita 90s. Like you're saying, literally the movie Lolita. Yeah. So when it comes time to sort of reorganize this as a screenplay instead of a stage play, and when it comes time to sort of consider your characters of Cairo and Jonathan in terms of like, oh, there is this reckoning happening around like gender and representation and exploitation, what were you finding were the most challenging elements of your own like sort of internalized misogyny? What were the most like surprising elements to unpack as you were viewing your characters through a new lens in that way?
What a great question. When Me Too. So when I set out to write this story, this whole thing is really just a love letter to my muse, who is a woman named Julianne Chandler, who is we went to high school together. She is so beautiful. She is such a talented actress, and I followed her to New York City to go to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, and then when I got there, that bitch went to LA, and I was like, God damn it, Julianne!
I just came so far.
Yes. Oh God. But we've stayed really close, and this was like, I went to 2 different acting schools. So the extent of my education is a certificate of participation from an acting school. And the recession happened and I couldn't get a job. Like really Broadway took such a huge hit. It took another hit obviously in the pandemic, but like if you weren't a celebrity or a male dancer, it was really, really hard to get a job.
Right, like Patti LuPone can work. And
correct. Then that's it.
It's all one-woman shows of Audra McDonald and Patti LuPone.
Yes. And also, please, Patti, work for all time. Just one little side note about Patti. Did you see her episode of Penny Dreadful?
Yes. Yes, I did.
Put it in the annals of perfection. Writing, acting, sobbing my face off.
Trust me, honey. When you kill your husband with a cleaver and then stand trial for it in New York City, you know what it is to be alone.
Patti knows exactly where to go and exactly how much to do, and she like never overexposes herself.
Long may she reign. Long may she reign.
Eternal.
So I was like, this is like poster session, like 2011, and I was not a writer. I had big designs on being an actress, and I couldn't get a job. So I was bar managing for Broadway shows. Elisa Samsel, who is the composer for this movie, who was also my best friend from one of my acting schools, she and I had written like a full-scale musical based on a short story by Edgar Allan Poe called Ligeia. And we went pretty, I think we wrote it in like 3 months. It was really special, and I hope that it sees the light of day. But that was the first time I'd ever written anything. And so after that, I was like, okay, like I've got a taste of that. I want to write something that's just a play. And I wanted to tailor it because I'd been an actor, I thought it would be best to tailor it for someone. So I called Julianne, who is just she is my god of idolatry.
That's so relatable to me.
And a muse, oh God, we could just go on about muses, but I'm going to tell you the story. So I called her and I said, you know, what do you want to play? Like if you could play any character, what do you want to play?
Yeah.
And she said Rhoda Penmark from The Bad Seed, who, if you recall, is a psychotic, child killer.
But it wasn't my fault, Mommy. It was Leroy's fault. He shouldn't have said he'd tell the police about me and give them my shoes.
I know.
And I think Rhoda, I think was pretty special at the time too. She's a child and there's nothing sexual about her, but I think women having any sort of agency was so terrifying that, we made them villains. And so I was like, okay, she wanted to play, I think she wanted to play a woman that is unhinged, that just kind of goes there. So I knew I wanted to write about the birth of a villain. And I wanted to set it like I was, right where so I set it in our high school that we went to, which was full of incredibly, despite Dixie Outfitters, full of incredibly intelligent, precocious, super talented kids and educators. And I wanted something scarier. I didn't want it to be murder. Because it was a play as well, but I wanted it to be like emotional and intellectual intrigue. Ultimately, something is said, and that's what Me Too did. Yes, let me get back to answering the question. Me Too happened, and I was like, oh, I don't have one villain, I have two. And I suddenly saw John for what he was. And it took the movement and sort of unlearning a lot of these things for me to see it at all. And that helped me develop Jonathan. Jonathan's inability to see himself is me. It's my inability to have seen what he was. And so Beatrice then becomes, Beatrice is my favorite character I've ever written. What a fucking G. I love her so much. She becomes that voice of reason, like, and she's really the only person in the script that has a leg to stand on, like ethically or morally. She's not a nice person, but she's, I mean, she's my Martha, obviously.
Yeah.
But it really, like, my understanding of Jonathan, like, that felt closer to me to real life. Like, I think these situations, there are the worst case scenario situations that happen way too often, of course.
Yeah.
But I think this situation happens all the fucking time. And I think this is more common. And so I wanted to have a conversation around it. And so I had these characters now who started out each in the opposite role, but now exhibited the same thing. So Cairo started as a villain, Jonathan started as a victim, but now they were both exhibiting both of those things. And as I came to understand myself as a writer as well, like, the perfect victim is so boring. It's boring to write. It's boring to play. And it's dangerous. It's a dangerous, the perfect victim, if we keep writing women or any marginalized person as the perfect victim, they have no room for error. So the second they make one, people on the side are going to be waiting to vilify them, right? Because it's just, I call it the damsel box. It's just like, it's the same box we've been in. It's just got different wrapping that, like, is like bubble wrap, you know, but it's not protective. And it's not real. Like, women are, if we don't allow women to be anything more than a perfect victim, then we're not allowing them to have any agency. It's so dangerous. And women also, when I'm thinking about actors or like writing for an actor, I don't want to play a fucking perfect victim. That's boring. I want to be Martha, you know, like I want to be, and Martha is victim of so many things, and particularly like the crushing patriarchy of that time. But she's so much more than that.
And she's an abominable person.
Yes, she's terrible. She's terrible, and you still love her. And I think, I think,
when you experience her heartbreak, when you witness it, it is and after everything that the guests have been through with her that night, like, they want to, like, take her in their arms and care for her in her devastation.
No, you cannot decide.
He hasn't decided anything, lady. It's not his doing. He doesn't have the power.
That's right. I'm not a god. I don't have any power over life and death, do I?
You can't kill him. You can't let him die. You can't.
And two, I think this is honestly how I'm able to kind of swallow is the wrong word, to like, even like anything politically, how I'm able, anything is to be palatable to me, is that when I look at them, I see them as children. And so I'm like, okay, like, it allows me to still humanize them. Otherwise I'm going to like go away. But like with my characters, like, they're just people. They're in a very heightened world. Nothing of like, some people are like upset that they're like, nobody talks like this. And I'm like, no shit.
Like, nobody talks like Gilmore Girls, but that's a very popular television show. Like, okay.
Like, people, you know, I think people want me to come down on a certain side. Like, they want me to like, because people want a perfect villain and a perfect victim, because it allows us to feel safe in our judgments of those characters and our judgments of ourselves. But I want this piece, which is it's really just a character study. I'm not trying to say anything pointed. I want the audience to ask themselves the same questions that I'm asking myself. You know, I don't know what happens to these characters after the end of this movie. I want to talk about it with you. What do you think happens to them at the end of the movie?
Yeah.
It's so interesting because I think the younger generations, Gen Z, and, you know, I think younger millennials, there's a bit of like, I don't want to say puritanism around sexuality, which is very American.
It does seem like that's what there seem to be reports to this nature.
Yeah, and it's like, I'm like, but we've got it so twisted. Like, the idea that a young person, male or female, is not going to experience sexuality or question or talk about it is outrageous. And to keep saying that, if you keep telling somebody something's inappropriate when they have a question, how are they? That causes shame.
Yeah.
And shame causes people to be fucking weirdo senators who do weird shit, right? And art, like, repression leads to perversion. But I think the alternative is that we've got video games where you can run over and shoot prostitutes who are women. Like, and that's fine. People are like gagging for those games. And I'm like, how can we disembowel someone on television and get a PG-13, but you show breasts, you show some titties, and you're a hard R. Like,
you're a hard R. That's the cutoff, man. You get one fuck and breasts.
Yes, but it can't be. It's also a weird thing where it can't be romantic. Like Euphoria, I love Euphoria, and I loved The Idol too. Like, I know it's tricky, contentious, but it's like Euphoria is fine because it's so awful. But like the second you have any sort of romance, God forbid, like it's over. Like there's just a weird like cognitive rigidity around sexuality in America that I find very alarming. Very alarming.
I think The Idol is poison, but like I agree with the point that you are making, and the point I think the aspect of like the coming together in the forums of conversation to discuss that is exactly the meaning of art like that does exist. Why it's not just like, okay, buried under a jail. Like why do I react derisively to it, and what does it satisfy as a need for you that you feel like you are missing? I feel like if we're in a world where The Idol is giving us what we lack, we are in a state of deprivation.
Oh my God.
We are crawling through the desert.
And let me clarify about The Idol. There are a lot of things I don't like about The Idol, but the ending of The Idol to me felt like the end of Phantom Thread, where I was like, oh, yeah, she knows.
And
what's
people
up.
loved Phantom Thread
because it's a character study. We just don't have. I don't know. Something's happening right now, and I think we're swinging one way and to keep people safe, which is good. I get that, but there's not a lot of grace for grayness in characters right now, and I wish we could have more grace, because if we can have more grace for the characters that we're watching, we can have more grace for ourselves and allow ourselves to not be ashamed to ask the question, or not be ashamed to wonder why you want something or why you don't want something, you know?
You know, I feel like I could try and ask a wrap-up question, but I feel like that is a wrap-up statement. That's the bow on the package. Jade Halley Bartlett, this has been such a wonderful conversation. I'm so glad you were here today. This was really fun.
I'm so happy to have been here. You are such a G. Can we be friends?
Yes!
Can we please be friends?
Thank you so much to Jade Halley Bartlett. This was truly one of the most fun times I have ever had recording this show. And please do check your local listings to find where you can see Miller's Girl. It truly, it's a talking picture. So one in this day and age you might not necessarily associate with the big screen experience, but the production design in this movie is so lush and at points just so bonkers, you guys. Like, I really would recommend seeing it in a theater. Get out there, A-list members. And because just like to take in, there are so many lamps in this movie, so many rich, wonderful lamps. It's gotta be seen to be believed. So please do check out Miller's Girl and take friends with you, because I think it bears conversation afterward. Get out there. And now I have that one quick thing before I go. I have been meaning to see Killers of the Flower Moon ever since it came out. I've been a butthead. I haven't made it a priority. I am not daunted by a long runtime, but it's sort of like, okay, this is going to be like a 4-hour thing, but then like trying to juggle all these things. So I love a long movie. Give me a long Oscars and give me a long movie. Like, take the time you need to take. I have no problem with that whatsoever. I do not need a tight 90 to be happy. If a movie's long and I love it, it means you're just going to live in it for a longer time. And Killers of the Flower Moon, I feel like anytime you get to see a movie like at one of LA's great movie houses, it's a luxury experience. I was able to see this movie at the Arrow, and it was an RSVP only screening, so I got to see it for free. And just I walked out and it was like, my God, like I loved Oppenheimer. I loved it so much more than I thought I did. It's by far my favorite Christopher Nolan movie in years. This feels like the most exciting crop of Best Picture contenders we've had in a long time. Just every one of them. What a wonderful assemblage of films. I walked out of Killers of the Flower Moon and I was like, why are we talking about anything else for Best Picture? Like, this is the one. this is the one. And like, I feel like Leonardo DiCaprio's acting with a capital A is like a good like culture, joke at this point if you're somebody who like talks about movies a lot. But like, guys, he's really one of the best doing it. Like he's one of our great actors. Robert De Niro, like, I feel like his choices are kind of funny sometimes at this point in his long career. Like, you tend to show up in random shit sometimes. But like, God, like you watch this, it's like, wow, Robert De Niro still kind of at the top of his Robert De Niro game. Martin Scorsese closer to 100 than he is even to 50 at this point. And he is still making best in class, top of his game movies. And as we all know, as the bros will tell you, as anybody will tell you, the top of Martin Scorsese's game, the ceiling is higher on that than almost anybody who's ever made films. Lily Gladstone, the like quiet power of that performance until like select moments when the loud breakthrough power of that performance. I truly hope we see her walk across the stage with an Oscar in her hand at the Academy Awards. I mean, 3.5 hours well spent. I mean, it's a true crime story. Like that's you have two of, expansive over 3 hour, like movies made for adults nominated for Best Picture this year. More than hefty Oscar nominations this year, but like between Oppenheimer, just here from the States, Oppenheimer and Killers of the Flower Moon, movies that are propulsive and just pull you through their huge runtimes and feel gripping throughout. And this is one of those. And, we re-aired the Kelly Reese episode recently where she talks a lot about like an issue that she wants to center first and always is the plight of missing and murdered Indigenous women. And you watch this movie and the whole time you're like, you're set in a historical period, but like, the story of missing and murdered Indigenous women is as urgent and terrifying now as it was then, and almost as much as being done now as one's then to address the problem, which is to say barely anything at all. So like you're watching this crime piece that still feels so urgently, desperately rooted in a problem not being confronted today. And just like, people talk about Raging Bull, talk about Alien, talk about Blade Runner, talk about like the classics of our great directors who are still alive and making movies. I'm honestly most excited about the fact that like Steven Spielberg has put out two of my favorite movies that he has ever made in the past 5 years with West Side Story and The Fabelmans. I'm excited that Ridley Scott put out one of my favorite Ridley Scott movies ever in The Last Duel. That was like the best movie of the year it came out. And now Martin Scorsese is putting out Killers of the Flower Moon, the movie of the year in 2023 for me. And like, that's what excites me about these 80-year-olds is that they have not lost a step. I don't want to talk about their old movies. You guys can do all of that. They're great stuff. But like, let's talk about their new works of genius. And yeah, Best Picture, Killers of the Flower Moon, amidst a bumper crop of movies I would be happy to see honored. This is the one. This is the one. And that's the final word on the Oscars, guys. Print it. And that is the final word on our show as well. You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at FeelingSeenPod or send us an email at feelingseen@MaximumFun.org. If you want to follow me, I'm JorCrew on Twitter. Our theme music is by Andrew Epen. The show is produced by Marissa Flaxbart. Our senior producers are Kevin Ferguson and Laura Swisher, and this is a production of Maximum Fun.
Maximum Fun,
a worker-owned network
of artist-owned shows,
supported directly by you.